More and more people, including even those with U.S. foreign policy or military experience, are beginning to ask serious questions about our role around the world. Many wonder whether in places like Chile or Hong Kong, we may have overreached. Danny Sjursen served our country in Iraq and in Afghanistan. He also taught at West Point, and he's good enough to join us now. You are an ardent critic of our U.S. foreign policy. You know, usually people with your resume don't do that. When did you make the realization that you are most patriotic or you serve your country well when you criticize it?
You know, I didn't start out that way. You know, 17-year-old me, when my mother signed me into the U.S. Military Academy at West Point, because that's how young I was, never would have expected that I'd be here at anti-war conferences across the country, on this show, criticizing the war. I was a budding neocon, and my biggest fear was that I would miss the Iraq War. Now, silly me, if I'd have known it was going to last 16-plus years, I would have left those fears behind.
Really?
I think what it was a combination of events. The loss of 8 soldiers in wars that we couldn't possibly win, shouldn't have been in the first place. 5 died from bombs and bullets, and 3 killed themselves. And the combination of that, there was a moment in the last of my soldiers who died, I was giving the compulsory captain's commander speech in front of the cameras that we send the video home to their families, and I'm saying nice things about this young man. And I realized they didn't even really know him. He was a replacement soldier. And another thing struck me, which is that I will never be able to go home and look his mother in the eye and tell her just what her son died for, because I didn't have an answer, and I refused to lie to her. And that was the moment when I realized it was time to patriotically dissent in the vein of Smedley Butler and other veterans who in the past have spoken out against wars that they shouldn't have been in the first place. And I'll tell you, I think I'm doing more of a service. This will probably be my last service to the country and probably be the most important one I ever do.
So it's not about the fact that we're in wars. It's about the fact that, to hear you tell it, we are in aimless wars. Wars without purpose, wars without direction, wars that seem to go on ad infinitum.
Well, that's right, and these are wars that also aren't sanctioned by Congress for the most part. And so what we have is a constitutional crisis. And I'll tell you, the constitutional crisis is not the charade that's going on Capitol Hill today. The constitutional crisis is the fact that our Congress has obviated itself of the responsibility, the mandated responsibility to sanction our wars.
Why? Why?
Well, I mean,
why would they do that?
Well, part of it is because they're in the pocket of the military-industrial complex, and because the F-35 is made in 40 states, right, and it's purposely done so. And part of it is because they don't want to take the political courage to take a stand, because war is polarizing. And if you vote wrong, it could torpedo your campaign. Just ask Hillary Clinton in 2008 about her Iraq War vote. So they'd rather not take a stand. But here's the deal when it comes to this. Congress has failed us. So grassroots veterans like myself have no choice, and I'm not alone anymore. Polls show that 2/3 of veterans of these wars no longer support them. They say, quote, in the polls, they're not worth it. Well, here's what I have to say to Congress. Here's what I have to say about everybody in the American government. Do your job before something happens if you don't. And you know what that thing's going to be? A man born after 9/11 is going to die in Afghanistan this year. If we don't stop what we're doing, that's going to happen. And you know what? It'll be the first time in American history that's ever happened.
What do you make of Tulsi Gabbard, who has an opinion similar to yours, and she is being waylaid? She is being viciously lambasted for her opinion. Well,
it's Neo-McCarthyism. And here's the deal. What we found out from the Tulsi Gabbard case is that your combat record won't save you. You know, the blue team and the red team of the establishment parties in America, everybody loves soldiers, right? Vacuous, vapid thanks. Some of them mean it, some of them don't, but we're political pawns in a game. And if you go against your establishment, in her case, the DNC, which has become the cheerleaders for war since Trump's been elected, which is fascinating, then your combat service, she still wears the uniform, won't save you. They will come at you, and they will come at you viciously. In fact, she should sue for libel, because without any evidence, Hillary Clinton and the New York Times before her said that she's a Russian asset and she's essentially a traitor. Well, because Tulsi Gabbard still wears the uniform, they're sentencing her to death. That is a crime, if proven, that's punishable by death. And to make that accusation...
Why death? You mean because she
still serves, and treason is still punishable by death on the books.
Wow.
And so to make that accusation without any evidence to a serving member, a 2-time two-time combat veteran, I'll tell you, it is a symptom of a broken system, and it's a shame.
If people want to reach out to you, what do they do?
Yeah, check out my weekly columns at truthdig and antiwar.com, and follow me on Twitter at Skeptical Vet, which I think is a pretty appropriate title.
There he is, the Skeptical Vet, Danny Sjursen. Thank you, my friend, for spending time with us.
So glad to be here.
So you haven't heard that we're the ones covering the stories that you won't see covered anywhere else? In Venezuela, Kazakhstan, let's go to Hong Kong. And the media reaction to that has been crickets. How about the way we cover those stories? What the hell does that mean? Wally, Wally, Wally. That's the key word in this case, uprising. Keep, can you believe that? Watching. This is the right thing for members of the media to do, to actually pick sides. Look, if you like what you see, subscribe.